Welcome to Explore Classroom. My name is Andrea Villarreal Rodriguez, but you can call me Andy. I am a National Geographic Young Explorer, a photographer, and I will be your host for today. I am talking to you live from Monterrey, a city in northern Mexico. And we're so excited to have you joining us for the fourth event in the Explore Classroom Storytelling series. If you tuned in into the previous episodes, welcome back. And if this is your first time joining, we are so happy you're here. Today, we will continue on our journey to learn about the power of storytelling directly from National Geographic explorers and to inspire you to connect to the stories in your own communities. National Geographic's approach to storytelling is focused on finding the important and true stories around us, in communicating them in a way that opens hearts, changes minds, and inspires action. It's nonfiction storytelling for impact. And throughout the storytelling series, we'll discover how our explorers do just that. Because we believe that anyone can be an explorer and that you have the power to make a difference in the world no matter how old you are. And so, before we get into today's lesson, I'd like to welcome all of the classes joining us today with special shout-outs going to Deerfield Community School in New Hampshire, Marymount International School in France, Paw CUSD 271 and GEMS World Academy in Illinois, the Crusolex and Friends Homeschool Co-op in New Jersey, Figliolini Homeschool in Pennsylvania, Planet English School in Greece, Perry Lecompton Middle School in Kansas, Elia Middle School in Canada, and Mariupol State University in Ukraine. We are so happy you are all here because we are joined by the legendary explorer, Muhammed Muheisen. Muhammed is a two-time Pulitzer Prize-winning photographer, a National Geographic photojournalist, and the founder of the Dutch nonprofit organization Everyday Refugees Foundation. He is passionate about documenting people's lives through the lens of his camera. Muhammed is currently based in the Netherlands, but his work has taken him all over the world to cover stories to places like South Africa, South Asia, Europe, and all across the Middle East. In recent years, his photography has been focused on refugees and people affected by conflict, poverty, and natural disasters. Today, Muhammed will be joining us live to tell us more about his photography, his inspiration, and the stories he carries with him throughout his journey. Let's welcome Muhammed to the show. Hello, Muhammed. Welcome to Explore Classroom.
Thank you, Andy. Hi, everyone. I'm Muhammed Muheisen. I'm a National Geographic explorer and I'm a photojournalist. For more than a decade and a half, I have been documenting the refugee crisis in different parts of the world, and my home base is Amsterdam, the Netherlands. Very excited to share this classroom with you. Before we kick in, I would like to start by sharing this video with you all. Breathe. Yes. Yeah. So I hope you enjoyed this clip. This was a peek into my world as a human, as a storyteller, as you have seen here some documentation of refugees, some traveling around the world to show the beauty of our planet. But behind these stories, there are messages to inspire and motivate you just to be passionate and fall in love with photography and follow your hearts with it.
Thank you, Muhammad. That was a beautiful video. And we're so excited to hear you talk about your work and get a little glimpse into the stories you have shared and the places you have traveled to in order to capture these stories. And so, students, we have seen that Muhammad uses photography to capture the moment and deliver the message that he wants to share with the world. And over the past few weeks here on Explore Classroom, we've learned from storytellers who use different types of tools to tell the stories they have encountered. So you might have remembered that we met Paul, who uses pen and paper to write. And then we met Noel and Pragna, who use video. And last week, we met Ashley and Will, who use maps to tell stories that matter to them. And now I want to hear from you. Students, if you have an opportunity to learn to use a tool, any tool that you can use to tell a story and make a difference, what would it be? For example, would you like to also learn photography like Muhammad? Or maybe learn how to make a video like Noel and Pragna? Or to draw a picture, make an animation, sculpt a clay model, or even write a live play for theater? So, I'm so happy to hear your answers. And the question is, if you have an opportunity to learn how to use a tool, any tool that you can use to tell a story and make a difference, what would it be? So students, please share your answers with your teachers, and teachers, please share your students' answers in the chat. And so I'm already starting to see some answers coming in. Some folks at the Victorious Homeschool, which we're so happy to see again, are saying animation. So Naomi and Mika would love to use animation to tell stories. Miss Purmali's class would love to use a microphone. Okay, so audio-based stories like a podcast. I like that. Kip is wondering if we would collaborate with AI to tell a story, and what would that look like? That's a very interesting question. Teacher Larcy would love to make a children's storybook. And of course, that involves writing and illustration. Raya says that her mom does video and that she might too. I love that. Miss Purmali's class would also love to harness the power of all forms of art. Yoshi says comics. Juan Nicolas says cinematography. We also have some answers from paintbrush, punching bag. Okay, interesting. I love how sports and the body and corporate dance can be used to tell stories as well. We have more answers for cinematography, like movies, but also answers for pen and paper, podcast, video camera. Oliver from the Snapdragons says he would like to use a PRAWN suit, which I think you say prawn suit, which is an underwater mech suit, which I think is used to film underwater. So that's pretty cool. We're also getting some answers for illustration, graphic design tools like Canva, camera, comics, GoPro, drawings, microscope. So many great answers. So thank you so much for sharing. And on YouTube, we also have some people that say they would love to do a storybook with paper and pencil drawings, like Carl from Louisiana, who would love to draw, and Emily, who would love to use music, like piano or violin, to tell a story. And I love hearing about all of the tools you use to tell a story, and you truly are a very inspirational group. And I'm sure you all have very good reasons on why you picked that specific tool to tell a story. And now I'm curious on why Muhammad chose photography. So Muhammad, could you tell us how you got interested in this medium? Where was your beginning and when did you start?
Thank you, Andy, again. So I fell in love with photography at a very early age, almost the same age as the students. It was the moment that I met my grandmother's Polaroid camera. I discovered my true love and passion, photography. It was this magical box. You press a button, a piece of paper comes out, documenting that exact moment, and we get to keep it with us the rest of our lives. So I found something, to keep me busy and hopeful. I opened my eyes to my immediate surroundings, and I started to see colors and feel colors. And I dreamt someday I will be able to capture these colors with the world and color their world. As now, I have been more than 20 years traveling the world with my camera to document stories that matter. Stories of hope, stories of courage, and stories of resilience. Stories of people who were forced to leave their homes and hopes, their families and memories behind, and go search for a new safe home. As nobody leaves their home unless they are forced to leave their home. And this is what I try to show in my images. As with my photographs, I want to spread awareness. I want to change stereotypes. And most important, I want to raise the voice of the people that are photographs, as these are never just pictures. These are voices, these are messages, and these are testimonies that live forever and forever. And I don't just pass by and take pictures. I spend time, I invest, I get to know the people, I become part of their lives, and I aim to make an actual difference in their lives, big or small. At least we start somewhere. Keeping in mind, it's not a 100-meter sprint, it's a marathon. Just like this picture we're looking at of young Mr. Bubble Boy. This is Zawar Khan, a young Afghan refugee who lives in Pakistan with his family. After photographing Zawar here chasing bubbles released by a vendor, I went out and about trying to find him because I printed his picture and I wanted to hand it to him. So I found him, I gave him this picture, but that moment was priceless. The moment he held his own picture, he was very proud. He was so emotional. And this is when I realized how simple kindness could make a lot of difference in someone's life. So always remember to aim to make a simple kindness. Could be shaking someone's hand, could be telling your neighbor good morning, etc. That's where the difference begins. I usually focus with my photographs on children, as I personally believe that children are the real victims of conflicts. Children all over the world share the same things in common. They all seek fun, they seek joy, and they seek happiness, no matter where they are from or the circumstances surrounding them. And these photographs become their voice to the outside world. As you know, I usually shield behind my camera and let these photographs do the talking. However, with this classroom, it's a great opportunity for me to share with you what it takes to be a photographer. As I don't shoot, I don't click. I capture moments in time from yesterday and today for tomorrow and the coming generation to learn from, to be inspired and motivated by. As with the title, photographer, the responsibility comes ethics, credibility, honesty, integrity, trust, etc. So I document moments as if something happened and was never documented. It's like it's never occurred. I connect words together through images. I aim to raise awareness to an important issues like refugees, displacement, climate, etc. And I change stereotypes. Sometimes we judge specific people or community from the cover by going there and spending time and showing the word the real image, and I dive deeper in their stories. You become more aware and you learn more about these community, and most important, I aim to make a difference. And with my work as a photographer, I managed to establish a Dutch nonprofit, Everyday Refugees Foundation, where through photography, what do? We document, educate, help, and empower refugees, local communities, and internally displaced people in different parts of the world by conflicts, poverty, discrimination, and natural disasters. Can you believe that this foundation, we managed to help tens of thousands of people through photographs. And that should tell you the importance and power of photography as a tool to make an actual difference. And I'm a deep believer in that. So that was, the big part of what I do, the ethics and the credibility, what I carry with me to be able to capture these pictures. Now, let's talk a little bit about what is a good picture, after being a good human, then being a good photographer. So when I'm out and about, so let me share with you how my day starts. I wake up before the sunrise. I never let the sun catches my skin. So I wake up as early as possible. I read a little bit, I work out a little bit, I have my coffee, and I make sure the day before that my camera is charged, my memory cards are empty, never go somewhere and then discover you don't have the battery or the card. That happens, but you learn from it. And then the first thing I do, I check the light. Light is life, you see? And for me as a photographer, the light kind of one of the main three elements, light. And then I go out and about and I'm always observing. My eyes are 360, always observing, looking for moments, looking for emotions. So I try to locate that place, that background that I want to have my picture captured in, because the background is very important as an element. And then I look for an interesting subject. What he means by interesting subject, it could be something that matters to me, an important issue that I want to highlight. It could be my town, my school, my family, my community. And for me, that subject is people who left everything behind and in search to go find a new safe home. So these are the elements of what a good picture could be. But remember, before being a good photographer, you have to be a good human being, and that's what makes you an extraordinary photographer. Thank you.
Thank you, Muhammad. That is such a powerful way to use photography to inspire change. And I am personally very inspired by your work and your whole journey with us. And students, we would like to hear from you again after this short lesson from Muhammad. We've already thought about the tools we might use to share these important stories with the world. And now we would love to know what those important stories may be. And so we invite you to think about the stories you are interested in telling. We just heard from Muhammad that he's very interested in documenting stories about the refugee crisis, about displacement, about climate. And we are wondering if there is an issue in your community that you want to share with the world to inspire change. Is there a story that personally matters to you and that you want more people to pay attention to? That is a question we are asking in this segment. If you could tell a story to create change, what would the story be? So again, students, please share with your teachers, and teachers, please type your students' answers in the chat. Again, the question is, if you could tell a story to create change, what story would that be? And while we wait for your answers to come in, I could give my example. So remember that I once told you that I love to explore my local river, the Santa Catarina River here in Monterrey. Well, I think it's important to tell stories about this river, to highlight how important it is to the city, how many plants and animals it has, how many people interact with it on a daily basis, and how, for example, my grandparents used to play down at the riverbank when they were younger. And so I really want to foster a sense of community with this space to get people to care and take care of it. So, for example, that is a story for change that I would love to share. And now I am starting to see your answers coming in. So let's read a handful of them. We have stories about litter, climate change, pollution from Ms. Permalis's class, habitat loss, animal endangerment, people of Palestine, the displaced, the past, the traumatized. Very interesting approach. Plastic in the water, racism, segregation. Perfect. Like we talked with Ashley and William last episode, women's rights, wildlife, urban gardens. So many wonderful questions, and I'll really appreciate getting to hear all these stories that matter to you one day, and hopefully I'll get to learn more about your communities. And Mohammed, thank you so much for sharing your work with us. Your photos certainly make me curious to learn more about the people that you portray. So, is there a particular story that you want to share with us about anyone you photographed?
Thank you, Andy. So technically, I never forget any of the children that I photographed and became known by their photographs. They are part of my life as I'm part of theirs. I've seen many of these kids literally growing in front of my eyes and my lens, and it became very important for me to introduce them to the world, to share their stories with the world. One of them, for example, is Laiba Hazrat. As you can see, she lives with me. She's in the wall in the background. Wherever I go, I carry her voice. So Laiba is a 6-year-old Afghan refugee who lives with her family in a mud home on the outskirts of Islamabad, Pakistan. I've seen Laiba as a baby, literally, and a few years after, I portrayed her. I captured these moments of her, is freezing in front of my camera, and her picture went out and about. But remember, every time I photograph a child, I seek permission from their parents. That's a very important rule when we do that as photographers. And her picture was published everywhere. I started to receive emails and messages from people from different parts of the world. And one day I received nice books with Laiba's picture on it from a mother, from a family actually in Texas. And that package was addressed to Laiba. So I was very happy. I carried this package and I went and I handed it to Laiba and her family. They were very moved and very happy. And this is when I realized the importance of what I do. So my picture connected two words, and me, the photographer, became the bridge and the messenger. And this is another reason why I'm a photographer, why I'm a storyteller, to connect communities and world. Another story is Zahra Mahmoud. Zahra is a young Syrian refugee girl living with her family in Jordan. I met Zahra for the first time in the summer of 2015. She was almost 5. She was very sad, very quiet, and you can see the scars of war all over her tiny face. It was very important for me to share her story with the world. After seeking permission from her father, Zahra's portrait was published everywhere, all over the world. She became the face of that conflict, the face of the lost childhood. So I hoped with all this picture and all her noise, her life would be better. So I made it my mission, my commitment, my responsibility to keep telling Zahra's stories. So from 2015 up to date, I keep visiting Zahra twice every year to keep her stories going. I've seen her almost 5. Now she is 13 and a half. So she's growing. So as a photographer, I'm very hopeful. There is a hope out there, and we should never stop believing. But before I go deeper in Zahra's stories, I want to share with you this quick video and explain more about it.
يلا احنا أصدقاء. شكرا على الهدية.
So you have seen here the little Zahra, that little girl that I met in 2015, and I kept visiting and documenting her story. But once upon a time, I came back from an assignment from Serbia to Amsterdam to my home. And the first thing I do is I check my mails, and out of the blue, I found this letter with a child hand written on it. I was very curious. I ran up, I opened it. It was a letter addressed from a young girl in Germany. Her name is Mariella. And I was so moved. I got more curious. I opened the letter and I started reading. It says, "Hello, Zahra. My name is Mariella. I saw your portrait in a German newspaper, but you looked very sad. If we become friends, would you be happy? And for me, that was the biggest achievement you could imagine as a storyteller, when your picture just reached the world and make an echo and connects. So what I did, the first opportunity that came, I carried this letter and I took it to Jordan. I gave it to Zahra. Zahra wrote a letter. I carried it and I went running to hand it to Mariella in Germany. And this is for me what is called letter for hope. So a relationship began between two girls, the same age, they share the same age, the same hopes, but the circumstances are different. And my pictures again connected to words, and I became the bridge and the messenger. And that's for me is what Letters of Hope is all about. Photography is all about hope. Photography is life, is color, is hope, is difference. That's why I'm a big, big fan of photography. I'm passionate about what I do. And now I would love to hear your questions.
Thank you, Muhammad. Photography is life. And that was such a powerful and heartwarming story. I really love that you get to spend time with the people that you photograph and build a connection and really listen and learn their story to learn how to portray it through photography. And students, we have one last question for you before we head into the Q&A. We just heard about the incredible Letters of Hope story about how Sarah in Jordan and Mariela in Germany communicate with each other. And so I want to know, if you could write to Sarah, just like Mariela did, what would you like to say to her? Or what question would you like to ask her? So students, please share your thoughts with your teacher, and teachers, please type the answers in the chat bar. Again, the question is, if you could write to Sarah, what would you say to her? What question would you ask her? And we are starting to see some comments come in. There are a lot of beautiful messages relating to how that photograph feels like a painting, and she's very pretty and she's very beautiful. Some of them would like to ask, how old is she? Is she happy? Is she thankful? Raya says that she would like to thank her for not giving up on life, even when it feels hard, especially in places of conflict. Children bring such a beautiful light to these situations. And as Muhammad said, they're the real victims of conflict. So when we get to hear their stories through their photographies, that's where we really get to connect and feel empathetic with people that are on the other side of the world. SD Learning Academy would love to know, has the photo changed her life, like on her day-to-day basis? Naya Graziella wants to know, how is she doing? Miss Permali's class wants to know, is she waiting to get to another place? So many great answers. I'm sure that questions that I'm sure that Sarah would love to answer. And yeah, there's so many beautiful comments alluding to Sarah as a beacon of hope, and her smile is very endearing and her eyes are very full of light. And so the Snapdragons would love to ask questions about her favorite things, like foods and hobbies. Miss Pramali's class would like to ask, like, how is her life on a day-to-day basis? Like, what does she do? Teacher Larcy would like to know, because we just saw her in costume, that if Snow White is her favorite Disney character, and what does she like about that specific princess. Oh yeah, Tara from YouTube also wants to know if it's Snow White, the character that she's most interested in. Christy from YouTube would also like to know what kind of foods does she eat. And Aubrey from Garden Spot Middle School would love to ask, what is her favorite hobby? And so thank you so much for sharing with us, friends. Maybe Muhammad can help us deliver these messages or questions next time he visits Zara. And thank you so much for bringing us into the field with you to get an incredible look at your work and showing us how photography can be a powerful tool for change.
Yeah, thank you very much, Andy. I'm moved by all the questions and the answers. They all are correct. You know, it's amazing. I'm a deep believer in the power of photography as a force for good. And I do believe that there is no better way to make a difference than photography.
I definitely agree. And now we're going to kick off everyone's favorite portion, the Q&A, where you guys get to ask questions to Muhammad directly here on the screen or through chat on YouTube and Zoom. And if you're watching online, please send us your questions in the chat bar, and we record all of them as they're sent in. So please only send each question once. And teachers, please let us know who's asking the question so we can give your class or your student a shout out. And if you're on-screen guest, please raise your hand, your virtual hand, when you have a question and get nice and ready with a loud voice. I'll be calling on as many classes as I can. And we'll start off with the first question from YouTube, specifically 80 at Garden Spot Middle School. And they want to know, why do you mostly take photos of children?
I mean, it's because I grew up myself in under conflict, and there was always a chance, for fun and joy. And for me, a picture of a child in Pakistan or Afghanistan, the same moment could happen anywhere in the world. And this way, I raise their voice to the world, and I show that children are children, no matter where they are from or the circumstances surrounding them. It's connecting and explaining. Make them closer to your heart and understand more and get curious, because a child is a young grown-up. Child has an opinion, has a voice, has ideas, and that's what I try to show in my images.
And we now have a question from Sophie on YouTube, who wants to know, how did you become a photographer? Like, how did you make this your job?
That's a very, very good question. So when I was a kid, I fell in love with photography. I found that magic, that I loved. So to achieve where I am today, I had to study. So I studied journalism and political science. I combined my passion, photography, with my education, so I could become a good storyteller and travel the world. And when you're passionate, you definitely going to succeed. So it all starts with loving photography. Photography is not a job. Photography is life. It's your life. Wherever I go, I have my camera. Whenever I see a nice scene, a nice moment, I capture it. And when you're good, when you love what you do, no matter what, you will reach the top.
Manuel said yes. Thank you, Muhammad, for that beautiful answer. And now we have a question from Isabel on YouTube, who wants to know, do you sometimes find conflict when you want to take a picture of something, such as a parent who doesn't want you to take a picture of the children, or many other examples?
Yeah, I always do my best not to put myself in that situation. And the key to that is to spend time, explain. I don't usually just jump in and I start taking pictures. I always introduce myself as a human who's photographing other humans, because there is not a picture worth, upsetting someone or harming someone. So seeking permission is the most important element. And when you spend time, people connect to you, so you become welcomed. I worked in countries I didn't speak the language for years, but I never invaded anyone's privacy. I never stepped in. I always was respectful. There's a very important thing, wherever you travel, wherever you are, to take pictures, try to understand a little bit about that community, know what's allowed, what's not allowed, learn a little bit about that community, know what's the tradition, the culture, and that always helped me to feel welcome. And whenever I feel that somebody is not happy to have their pictures, I never try to have their pictures. And another thing, being a National Geographic photographer, you always have to seek permission. You need to have a consent form, or written or recorded consent, because you are a human who's taking other pictures of other human beings. So always remember that. How would you feel if you are on the other side of the camera? And that will help you.
Thank you, Mohammed. Your work ethic is truly admirable. And we now have a question from Claire and 80 at Garden Spot Middle School. And they want to know, what photo are you the most proud of? And do you ever get emotional when you're taking pictures?
Yeah, so I'm proud of every picture that I capture, especially of children, but there is a particular picture that I captured of a school of girls studying in a graveyard because there was no school around them. And after I took that picture, the government moved and built a school for them. So that's for me the most pictures that I'm proud of. I'm proud of all the pictures that I took of young refugees, and then we came after and a difference made in their life. And I always feel emotional the moment that I'm not able to help everybody, but I learned that helping one person is better than helping none. And for me, every picture that I capture carries hope for a difference to be made. If the difference is not made today or tomorrow, I'm sure in the future will come.
Thank you, Muhammad. And your photos have had a tremendous impact. So congratulations for such extraordinary work. We now have a question from teacher Larcy, who in the chat bar has asked, do you remember your first ever subject?
I do. What I didn't tell you earlier, I never wanted to be a war photographer. I wanted to do art. I wanted to do nature and streets. So my first picture was the flies on the street lights in the night. These were, I was obsessed with these things and lights, and then the trees and the nature, the raindrops. Being a photographer, you have to be hopeful and you have to be open your eyes all the time, see things, feel emotions. And I was always curious about the immediate surroundings, the nature, the colors, the light, everything. So this was my start.
I have a similar experience to you, that you start photographing like mountains and rivers, and eventually you get more involved in how humans interact with these spaces. And there's so many rich stories that can come out of that.
It's uh, it's incredible. I live in the Netherlands, so every year in the spring is the flower season. And some people sometimes laugh at me. You're a war photographer and you're obsessed with flower. I said these colors for me are hope. I like to go disconnect sometimes, fly over, as have you seen in the introduction video, take pictures from above. It's just a reminder how beautiful our planet is and how we have to protect it. So these pictures spread awareness.
Exactly. And there's so much hope and so much beauty in nature that can inspire us as humans to our everyday lives. And I definitely agree with you on that.
Reminder.
And so we also have a question from YouTube. And Maddie asks a bit of a technical question for all aspiring storytellers out there. How do you choose what cameras to use for each story? Because we saw in the video and in your photos that you have many cameras.
That's correct. All right. Let me just put it this way. The camera is just a tool, no matter what the camera brand is, no matter what you use. I believe in quality, not quantity. Remember, that's very important. And the camera that you feel comfortable with, the one that you master, the one when you close your eyes and you do your setting, you feel confident. That's the camera you should use. It's not about how long is the lens or how big is the camera. It's about how do you feel with this camera. In my case, I like to work with a small camera, with a small lens, to be, to never invade anyone's privacy, to be invisible. Because when you are invisible as a photographer, this is where the magic happens and you capture these real spontaneous moments.
Exactly. And the more time you spend with the community, the more comfortable they feel in front of the camera and in front of you. So definitely working with communities closely is crucial if you guys want to be storytellers. And we have one final question from YouTube from Abby. And Abby from Garden Spot Middle School asks, what if a photo doesn't have emotion? And maybe it doesn't come out exactly how you pictured it once you look at it in the computer.
That happens, but that means you did not really spend enough time. You did not really feel that moment. It's a reflection. I always have this extreme saying, a picture without emotion is like a body without a soul. I have to feel emotions because this emotion is going to draw my attention, makes me curious to jump into the caption and learn more, especially when you take pictures of people, when you take pictures in vulnerable communities. Every picture carries a voice. And so you have to spend time and get that emotion. If that emotion doesn't come today, will come tomorrow. I spent 7 years and a half trying to capture emotions within Zahra's stories. So, sometimes it comes immediately, but you have to be patient and you have to believe in that moment and work hard to get it done.
Exactly. Thank you, Muhammad. And of course, we would love to spend hours asking you questions, but our time is up. So I would like to ask you, what final message do you want to give to all the future explorers here watching?
Remember when I started my classroom by mentioning that I had a dream when I was a kid that one day to grow up and take pictures and make color and share it with the world? As you can see, dreams can literally come true. That my advice, that there is nothing impossible if you work hard, if you follow your heart, and if you believe in yourself. So remember that it's all about passion, compassion, determination, and skill. And these are the keys for you to be successful tomorrow. Work hard, follow your heart, and believe in yourself. This is my advice, and this is what I live by.
Incredible advice. Thank you so much, Muhammad, for joining us today and for inspiring us with your work and that beautiful final message. So,
Muhammad, thank you so much.
thank you so much. And thank you to all of the teachers for bringing your classes to this space, and to all of the students for your very thoughtful questions. We have one final mission for all of you students participating as part of our storytelling series. And your final mission is to create a community story. We heard today about the power of photography to share stories and inspire real change. And throughout the series, we've also learned about telling important stories through writing, video, and maps. And in your final mission, you will choose a community member to interview and use the skills that you have been developing throughout the series to help tell that person's story. And you can tell that story using the format of your choice. It can be photography, like Muhammad, or video, like Noel and Pragna, but feel free to express yourself in whichever medium feels best for you. And teachers, please use the Educator Mission Guide to learn more about this mission, and be sure to share your student work with us. For those following the storytelling series, the celebration event will be on Thursday, May 16th. So that's 2 weeks from today. And you'll hear more from me about my own journey as a photographer, and from my best friend and fellow young explorer, Marcos Martinez Berman. And we'll reflect on everything that we've learned together throughout the series, and we'll also hear directly from some of you about the stories that you have uncovered in your communities. And finally, after the celebration event, Explore Classroom will be going on summer break, like most of you. So check out our website, natgeoed.org/Explore Classroom over the summer months to view our fall schedule and register for more exciting events in the new school year, including the Wildlife series. And when you register, you can request a chance to be featured here on screen with us. So, have a great day, everyone. Stay curious and keep exploring, and we'll see you next time on Explore Classroom. Bye.